Hi, my name is Nathan Swartz, and I am going to be showing you how I utilize a marking period grade analysis at the end of every marking period for all of my classes. I noticed over the years, students would have kind of a vague concept or idea of whether or not they could get their goal grade at the end of the year. I would have kids with C's thinking that they could pull an A out at the last minute, not realizing that the math was actually impossible. So I devised this to help my students establish some academic goals, keep on track, see what's realistic and what their path could be. I'm going to go over different aspects of this, okay? So to do the math for the students and help them figure out what they needed to get at the end of the year, I put some simple equations up here on how to get an A, a B, or a C, and they could plug their scores in and do the math for each marking period, and then see what they need to get in marking period 4 to end up with their goal grade at the end of the year. I also, at the end, give them a reflection piece of why did they get the grade that they got last marking period, what were the strengths, what were the weaknesses, and I'll go over that here in a bit. First, it establishes a goal-setting theory, so educational psychology. And by mandating the selection of a realistic target grade for the course, the assignment directly applies the tenets of goal-setting theory, which posits that specific, challenging objectives yield superior performance compared to vague or easily attainable ones. I tell them all the time, vague goals don't get accomplished, specific goals do, but we need an action plan with that. So they create specific achievable targets for each marking period. It's a data-driven decision-making and academic process, right? The exercise necessitates the utilization of actual performance data from marking periods 1, 2, and 3 for each of their classes to compute a requisite average from marking period 4. And that serves to introduce them to data-driven decision-making. Some self-monitoring, some metacognition. The reflective component at the end is prompted by inquiries such as what factors contributed to your grade in marking period 3, right? So they have to reflect, they have to analyze, they have to view what caused the result that they saw. So some self-reflection is always good. I know AVID encourages that at every step, and this is one of those. Right? It also builds awareness for them as we go along each marking period. Am I on the right path? Am I looking for my goal? Am I putting a plan in place to achieve it each and every marking period? So it's a formative assessment and it's a strategy adjustment. I know where my weaknesses might be and I know which class I need to step my game up in. If I see that my grade was lacking, maybe I need to use the tutorial process more frequently in that subject area. It gives an opportunity for differentiation and a personalized learning plan. This is going to be different for every kid. They can strategize on where they need to get the most help. Maybe they have to use our Twilight after-school program for one of the classes that they're struggling with. Maybe they can take some of the things that they have done well and apply those to the other subject matters as well. This is also a real life kind of context thing that they can take with them to college. One of the reasons I also came up with this because I used to do this for myself all the time in college for my own sanity to make sure that I was staying on point each semester to get the grades that I needed to get to keep the GPA strong. So this is something they can use for their own growth here in high school, but take this strategy along to college with them and utilize it there as well. It gives them student responsibility and ownership over their own improvement, their own awareness, their own path, their own goal setting. So it takes responsibility away from just the teacher and putting the onus on the student to establish their own goals and create a plan to meet them. So at the end, it's not just a worksheet, though it may seem that way to them. but it's helping in many different areas. So academic awareness for each one of their classes, what path have they established and are they currently on for each of their classes, how to calculate to get the things that they want, a reflection piece to look back on what went right, what went wrong, what are some areas for growth and improvement. And after I started doing it, I honestly started to see quite a bit of improvement, at least in the awareness of their path and their goals and whether or not their trajectory is where they want it to be. But it's always eye-opening for them at the end of every marking period when we do it. And then some of them have commented how it does in fact keep them on the right path, because now they know maybe where they need to shift their focus. If I know I have to really crush my math and science classes this semester, and I know I have some other classes that I'm already strong in, I can shift my focus to really get those other ones up to par. So it's something I've been doing for several years, and it has seemed to work out quite well so far for all of my AVID students. Thanks.